Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When people try and understand Islam in a general sense, sometimes they can be let down by the media, they can be let down by Islamophobes, they can be let down by a range of different people that talk about Islam. One thing that sometimes is underemphasized is the fact that non-Muslims and Muslims alike are let down by Muslims themselves. They're let down by Muslims who misrepresent Islam in both theory and in practice. Today we're going to be consulting with one of the most prominent Salafi Dawah or preachers that has come to the United Kingdom and has since then been quite prominent in Salafi communities. Salafi meaning the way of the companions. In his interactions with other Salafis, he's encountered many groups, fringe groups, sectarian type fringe groups, who have, one could argue, distort the image of Islam in both theory and practice. Today he's going to be describing to us his experience with some of the main scholars of such groups, or some of the main scholars that are referenced by such groups. We will learn from this what he thinks the difference between a methodological Salafism is and a group Salafism. This will be an interview, hopefully, which will shed light on some of the interactions between Salafis and between each other. Not only that, but between Salafis and non-Salafis. Hopefully this will be of use to you and of benefit to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm here with Abu Usama Atthahabi, a sheikh who has come from the United States, prominent in the United States Dawah, and who's come to live in the UK. He's a graduate of Medina University and has since then been very prolific in Salafi communities, had interactions with all kinds of Salafis, and we're here to ask him questions generally about Salafism, but also more specifically about some of his own interactions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you? So, Sheikh, I wanted to ask you generally for our viewers, what you understand from the term Salafi, and what is following the Salaf in your understanding?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. First of all, I want to extend a warm welcome to you, Mohammed, Hijab, to my community here in Liverpool. We're honored to have you, and may Allah Azza wa Jalla put your efforts of traveling from where you came from all the way to here, put in your skills of good deeds, Yawm al-Qiyamah. Second thing, in the way of, not a disclaimer, but making things very clear, because I, in the past, did a few things where I was giving advice to the brothers who are following the way of SP specifically, and we're going to deal with these issues, inshallah.
Instead of publications.
Yeah. I always try to maintain decorum and respect, because my goal and my objective is not to fight people.
Yes.
My goal and my objective is to make the dawah of a Salafiyya clear to people to the best of my ability, and in trying to do that, it becomes really crucial that we have the etiquette of what we're claiming we're upon, which is Salafiyya. As it relates to your question, Salafiyya is the way that a Muslim is going to practice his religion, the way that Allah has made it incumbent upon everyone, and what the Prophet ﷺ has advised with as well. There's an ayah of the Quran where Allah mentioned, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا. Every single group of people, every community, every ummah, we made for you a sharia, halal and haram, the legislation of their way of life. And we made for them a minhaj. The minhaj is the way that you go about practicing this religion. And the way that we go about practicing the religion is what Allah has called to in the Quran and commanded, and what the Prophet ﷺ has also illustrated and called to and commanded. That is, following the way of the Salaf of this ummah. The Salaf of this ummah being at the top of the list, the companions, may Allah Azza wa Jalla be pleased with all of them, And then those people were the students of the companions, known as the Tabi'een. And then those people were the students of the Tabi'een, and also those people who came after them. So clearly we include the great scholars of Islam, Al-Imam Malik, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, Al-Imam Ahmed, Al-Imam Shafi'i, all four of them, and other than them, all of them are from the people who we call and describe as the Salaf. But at the top of the list is following Al-Islam the way the companions did. So what they understood what Islam is what we understand Al-Islam is. The ibadat and the worships that they did, we do the same thing. What they didn't do, we don't do. The Eid or the A'yad, the celebrations that they did, we do the same thing. So if there was something that the companions had the ability to do at their time and they did not do it, we don't do it. It's as simple as that. And personally, with my husn al-dhan about the Muslims, all of the Muslims, I don't believe there's a single Muslim walking on the face of the earth. No matter what his madhab is, no matter what his maslak is, I don't believe that there is a Muslim in his right mind, except that every Muslim is going to say, I don't have a problem with following Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. May Allah be pleased with them. And what they did is what we should be doing. So what happens is that a lot of things get lost in translation because many people who call themselves Salafi, they may not necessarily give a good picture of what Salafiyya is, and so then it becomes confused to other people who are not Salafi. They conflate people's actions who are Salafi with what Salafiyya is. And before you ask the next question, I would just give this example. I'm a revert to this religion, and I'm African American, and the community that I came from was a community in which many Muslims came into my community and took advantage of my people. People were Pakistani, people were Indians, Afghanistani, people were Arabs. They came into my community. They sold Hummer. They sold us pork. They sold us items that were out of date. They ripped us off, some of them. Now, when I looked at them, they didn't give a good picture of what Islam was. Now, a person who may be Asian, a person who may be Arab, a person who may be whatever, he's going to look at me and he's going to say, we don't accept from you, Abu Usama, if you said you're going to reject Al-Islam because of what those people used to do in your community, because they were not a reflection of Al-Islam. They were Muslims, but they were not a reflection of Al-Islam. So I make that same point. We have to disconnect Salafi people who have a responsibility to live up to the name, as Muslims have a responsibility to live up to the name of Islam. But we don't always do that. But I'm just talking for people to understand. Don't reject the truth because so-and-so or this one or that one is not practicing the truth. This is something that Al-Islam rejects. And that's why Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the statement of Allah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا عَلَيْكُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ مَنْ ضَلَّ إِذَا اهْتَدَيْتُمْ. You are responsible for your own selves to do what's right, to follow the truth. It doesn't hurt you. If you do that, those who go astray. So that's what Salafiyya is in a nutshell.
So is it fair to say that really what you're describing is Islam when you say Salafism, in the sense that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands and the companions did according to the way of the Prophet really is Islam? So Salafism, in your understanding, and Islam are two sides of the same coin?
No doubt about it. As-Salafiyya is al-Islam al-Musaffa, al-Islam which is pure, undiluted, and it is not contaminated with anything. It is a synonym for al-Islam. Just as Ahl Sunnah is a synonym for practicing Islam the correct way. Al-Firqat al-Najiyah is a synonym for practicing Islam the correct way. So a Salafiyya shouldn't be understood to be something else. So when we talk about things in an intellectual way, we have to make sure that we make this very clear. But it's kind of like what the non-Muslims make a mistake with. When we say Allah, we worship Allah, we believe in Allah. Sometimes non-Muslims think Allah is another God other than the Khaliq that everybody worships. So when we say Allah, they think we have our own God unto ourselves. No, we're talking about Al-Khaliq, the Lord of the worlds. Allah, Al-Ilah. So Salafi is the same way. We don't want people, or people should not think when we say Salafiyya is something that is foreign, something else. No. All it is, the definition, following this religion the way the first generation followed this religion. Abu Bakr, Uthman, Ali, and the rest of those companions, may Allah be pleased with them.
Now, a question I have is that there are some groups that have emerged, many of them very intolerant in different ways, right? And that ascribe themselves to Salafism. They'll say, I'm a Salafi. They'll say, I'm following the way of the Sahaba. Some of them we're seeing overseas, extremists, for example, that do takfir, and they also claim to follow the Sahaba. In our quarters here in this country and in parts of the West, we see ultra-intolerant people like you mentioned, like, for example, the Salaf publications, people like that find it very difficult to communicate or to cooperate with other members of the Muslim community. How do we differentiate between Salafism as understood as a manhaj, or as a way, if you like, from the sect or the group or those individuals who ascribe to Salafism?
I think it's really important that knowledge plays a really critical role in this, because if a person has knowledge, he'll be in a position to realize this is not Salafiyya. And that over there is not Salafiyya. But if a person is ignorant, he's not in a position to discern. He can't make a distinction. He'll just base it upon mere claims. So I think it's really critical that people understand, as Allah mentioned in the Quran, when He gave this comprehension, this understanding to people, فَإِنْ آمَنْتُمْ بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. Allah said to the Prophet ﷺ, if the people believe the way you and your companions believe, then those people are guided aright. So all we have to do is know how and what was the Prophet upon sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we know that the Nabi of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. He had akhlaq. He had adab. He had sabr. He was truthful. He was a person more than anything else who had al-iman billah without any shirk or anything like that. So his aqidah, his ibadah, what he believed, how he worshipped, and his mu'amala with the people. We look at that and we say, anyone who's doing that, that's Salafiyya, even if he doesn't call himself Salafi. So I'm a person giving dawah Allah. I go into a masjid. I do not believe it's wajib for me to go in there beating the drum saying Salafi, Salafi. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. And a person doesn't have to even call himself Salafi. Allah didn't reveal that and make that wajib upon him. So what we have to do is we have to look at what was the Prophet doing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what was he upon, and we say whoever is doing that, then that individual is on a Salafiyya. And if the person is falling short of the mark, we don't exclude him and take him off of a Salafiyya. We just say that he's not reaching all of what should have been reached. And we're all falling short of the mark. No doubt about that.
There is a concentration nowadays on the scholars of Saudi Arabia. And one particular scholar who has become very prominent, especially in terms of the amount of followers that they've gotten in terms of taqleed, is Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali. And it's become almost like a global movement now. Pockets of every Muslim country have some followers who follow this Sheikh almost in a blind following format. What do you have to say about this, and what were your kind of experiences with Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali?
As it relates to the brothers who are from the West, America and the UK, I don't think any of the brothers who are on the scene right now have known a Sheikh Rabi' longer than I have. Because when I was in Al-Medina, I was close to the Sudanese students, and they were very close to a Sheikh Rabi'. Sheikh Rabi' knows me by my name, and for all of these years, he never said to the group of brothers who claim that they have this love for him, to the degree where we find there's a ghulu. One of them was speaking, gave a lecture.
Is extremism.
Extremism. In one lecture, the person would sit there and say, Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Rabi', 100,000 times, and not mention Allah and not mention Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is ghulu. They claim that they love and honor and respect him. Inshallah, they do.
Yeah.
But none of them knew Sheikh Rabi longer than I've known him. And the Sheikh Rabi, no doubt, was, and he is a scholar of Islam, because other scholars have said that. And as a result of that, we have to respect him. And he deserves that respect. He's gained that respect. But although that is the case, we have to say the truth. The truth is the truth. And that's what we learned from As-Salafiyya, especially from the scholars who we met. And Sheikh Rabi used to be upon that. And he used to teach people that way. That we respect people, but we follow principles. We respect personalities, but we follow principles. We don't follow individual people like that. So as it relates to Sheikh Rabi, is no doubt a scholar of this religion, but a lot of people have ghulu, and they go overboard with Sheikh Rabi, to the point that one of the sheikhs of these brothers, and he was supportive of Sheikh Rabi in Medina right now. His name is a Sheikh Abdurrahman Muhyiddin. He has a good relationship with Mohammed ibn Hadi, who broke away from Sheikh Rabi, and they're having problems. Sheikh Abdurrahman Muhyiddin is a good sheikh in the Sunnah. He was phoned and he was asked about how some people have this extremism in Sheikh Rabi, and he said, you know, some of these people worship Sheikh Rabi. That was his
metaphorically.
He meant metaphorically.
Yeah.
Now, had some other person made this mistake about someone else, for an example, Sheikh Rabi said about Sayyid Qutb, Ghafarallahu lana wa lahu, that Sayyid Qutb said that the Islamic societies are societies of a Jahiliyyah. And as a result of that, some people said that Sayyid Qutb made takfir of the Muslims. I don't believe Sayyid Qutb was making takfir. I think he was speaking metaphorically that there are things of Jahiliyyah that are many of the Muslim societies. I don't think he was making takfir of everyone. But what happens is, if you're an enemy to Sayyid Qutb, you take his words and give it the worst possible interpretation. But if you're a friend of Sayyid Qutb and you love him, honor, respect him, you give the best interpretation. So Sheikh Abdurrahman Muhyiddin metaphorically said, these brothers worship Sheikh Rabi. He didn't mean that they're kuffar. But had he been their enemy, they would have said, you see how he's making takfir. See how he's making takfir. But anyway, he was pointing to the reality of many brothers. And that is that whatever Sheikh Rabi says, that's what they're going to say. If he says it's halal, it's halal. He says it's haram, haram. If he says mubtadi, mubtadi. If he says you're okay, you're okay. If he says you're a major scholar, you're a major scholar. If he says you're ignorant, you're ignorant. And that's what Allah Ta'ala was referring to when he said in the Quran about the Ahlul Kitab. اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارُهُمْ رُهْبَانُهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. They take their priests and their monks as lords along with Allah. Akhi, Mohammed Hijab. Really important. When I went to Medina and the doors of the Salafiyya opened for me, and I was in Medina, Sheikh Rabi was one of the people who helped me to be on Salafiyya. But one thing that really Allah blessed me with was that I was looking towards Jordan to what Al-Imam Al-Albani was saying. And Al-Albani, rahmatullahi alayhi, he has students like a Sheikh Ali Al-Halabi, a Sheikh Mashhur Hassan, like a Sheikh Hussein Al-Awaisha, and on, Salim Al-Hilali, Abu Ishaq Al-Huwaini, Abdullah ibn Salih al-Ubaylan. He has many, many students. I have seen with my own eyes how students who are close to Al-Albani have refuted his positions and his rulings on hadith. Al-Albani would say the hadith is authentic or da'if. His student will come and say, I disagree with the sheikh, and give the opposite ruling. I've seen that, and that was the dawah and the teaching of Al-Albani. It was the same teaching of our Imam, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi alayhi, who said to his student Abu Yusuf, wayhak ya Yaqub, one to you, don't write everything that I say. I say something today, I may change it tomorrow. I'm a human being. I may change my position. Don't blindly follow me like that. So that's what I saw with Al-Albani. I will challenge you. I will challenge you. And anyone who else is listening. Find me a situation where these brothers have disagreed with Sheikh Rabi in anything. You You're not going to find it. Just as you won't find them retracting any mistakes. You won't find them retracting a mistake. They make mistakes. We all make mistakes. The Prophet mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Men samata naja." Whoever is quiet will be successful. As long as you talk, you're going to make mistakes. So you have to be willing to retract your mistakes. That's just what it is to be human. Show me where one of those brothers retracted, with the exception of Brother Dawud Adib, who said something that was an extreme statement. He has said that the ulama, they contact SP to find out who's Salafi in the West. And when that issue was brought to some of the scholars in Saudi Arabia, and all of the scholars are not only in Saudi Arabia, but when that statement of his was brought to some of those scholars, he retracted that publicly. That's the only retraction that I know that came from any of those brothers. And I'm not saying Dawud Adib is with them right now, but maybe I hope we get a chance to talk about Dawud Adib a little later on. But my point is, a Sheikh ibn Baz, a Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen, the ulama of al-Islam, a Sheikh Muqbil, rahmatullahi alayhi, you will find their students refuting the positions of all of those sheikhs with adab, with good manners. But you won't find these brothers who follow Sheikh Rabi' ever saying the Sheikh was wrong for this and the Sheikh was wrong for that. Which brings me to this other issue, if you don't mind. There was a time when the Salafi brothers were all together and we were united on the heart of one man. Although there were some differences, but we were all together.
You're talking about the UK?
In the UK and in America.
Right.
And they'd be in the mid-90s at the beginning when Salafi started taking off.
Right.
We were all together. And I remember the issue that caused me to become public enemy number one to them until this very day. And it had to do with the extremism in Sheikh Rabi'. Some of the brothers from the UK, we had went over to Saudi Arabia to do a seminar, a knowledge-based seminar. I believe it was called the Abu Bakr as-Siddiq seminar, or it could have been the Umar seminar. It was those series. I'm pretty sure it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And the brothers from Brixton and Luton were having problems with the bullying of SP, trying to take over the Dawah and so forth and so on. So I was one of the translators at the seminar. So the brothers from Luton, like Brother Abdul Qadir Bakhsh, they said we're going to have a meeting with Sheikh Rabi' to try to get some understanding as to how to solve this problem amongst ourselves. So I said, okay, I'll come. I just went to be there. It has nothing to do with me. I wasn't the Imam of Brixton, I wasn't connected to Luton, and I definitely wasn't with SP. So I went as a translator. Sheikh Rabi began to lay into Abdul Qadir Bakhsh and used to say to him, was telling him, you have to go back and make peace, and you have to do this, you have to do that, and you brothers, and he was really giving him a go for his money. And Sheikh Rabi was very upset. He was very upset. And then he made a statement that I couldn't accept because I know it wasn't true. He said that the sheikhs from Jordan, a Sheikh Ali al-Halabi, a Sheikh Salim al-Hilali, a Sheikh Musa al-Nasr, rahmatullahi alayhi, and a Sheikh Usama al-Qusi at that time, ghafarallahu lana wa lahu. He said that these people, along with Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi, are trying to take the attention of the Shabab away from the ulama, meaning him. And they're causing the Shabab to look at them. And I said, Sheikh, what are you talking about? He said, Abdurrahman Hernando, a Hispanic brother who had extreme views back then. Very intolerant back then. Very intolerant. And the reason why I'm saying his name is because I have to make it very clear. He said, Abdurrahman Hernando called me and he told me that these sheikhs supported someone who Sheikh Rabi was not happy with there in America. Our brother Imam Abu Muslima, hafidhahullahu ta'ala wa ra'ah. I said, what do you mean, Sheikh? What do you mean? He said, Hernando told me. I said, no, Sheikh, that's not true. Hernando is not practicing Islam anymore even. And Hernando was known to be a person who adds in his narrations and subtracts to his narrations. And the man is not even practicing. Sheikh Rabi, after being very upset and very animated, when I told him the reality of Hernando, he calmed down and he said, I don't believe everything that the Shabab tell me when they call me. One minute he was very upset. And then when I told him the reality of it, Hernando, he calmed down and said, I don't believe it, everything that the Shabab tell me when they call me. So I saw that Sheikh Rabi was very upset over here, and in a few minutes he came down over here. So it made me feel this thing is about desires. With Abu Hassan al-Ma'arabi, that was how I felt. So there was a brother, I was good friends with him at that time. He's one of the leaders of SP. His name is Musa Richardson. At that time, he was a balanced brother. At that time, I used to believe that that brother, when he goes back to America, he's going to be really beneficial because he has good social skills and he was mature. He was a good person. Anyway, he sent me an email and asked me, what happened at the Majlis? What happened with the sitting with the Sheikh? I told him, I'll tell you later when we talk, but I saw some things in the Sheikh that don't allow me to take everything that he says. So those brothers from SP put pressure on Musa Richardson, who was not with them really at that time, but they put pressure on him. They would go out on a witch hunt at that time. Musa Richardson gave them my email. There's a hadith that said, Al-Majalis bil-amana. When you sit with people, it's an amana. Especially if the kalam is sensitive. He gave them the email. I don't blame him because pressure, it bursts pipes. You know, the iron pipes, if there's too much pressure, the pipe will bust.
That's right.
So this is how it is. But that was how I became public enemy number one. They read that. I saw in Sheikh Rabi some things that don't allow me to take everything that he has to say. To them, that was disrespect.
But to be honest, that statement, if you just look at it from the face value, I mean, that you can say that about any scholar of Islam.
Someone with intellect would say, what did you see? What did you see? And then they would judge, you're being disrespectful. But that's just the point, to answer your question.
Right.
That's the ghulu and the extremism that we find manifested in some of the brothers as it relates to a Sheikh Rabi'. And Sheikh Rabi' doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that type of ghulu.
So what you've mentioned is not dissimilar from what Dr. Baker mentioned in some of his interactions with Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali. In particular, what he actually mentioned to us in the interview is that there was a particular agreement that took place on a whole arbitration process, and then it was overturned. Like you were saying, from one kind of extreme to another, one agreement was overturned after someone convinced Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali of a certain thing. So the question I want to ask you is, if that is the case and we know this of Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali, how is the way we should perceive Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali? How should one have an interaction with scholarship generally, but more specifically about Sheikh Rabi' al-Madkhali?
As we mentioned, Sheikh Rabi' is a scholar, no doubt about that, a scholar of hadith, and he is a scholar who is respected for the field that he's in. And in our religion, we make the ta'zeem of the nusus. When Allah says something in the Quran, when the Prophet says something, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Salafiyya is, we take those two sources and we glorify them, we magnify them. So we have the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. So if a Sheikh Rabi' is a scholar, or any other scholar for that matter, we have to raise him up. We have to respect him. But we raise him up to the degree that he deserves. There is a hadith in Sahih Muslim in the introduction in which Aisha said, Umirna an nunazzil an-nas manazilhum. We've been commanded, put people in their proper places. Don't treat your parents as if they're children. And don't treat the policeman as if he has no authority. Don't treat the husband as if, no, we treat everybody in accordance to the treatment that they deserve. So Sheikh Rabi' deserves that. But although that is the case, we just don't go overboard. And we look at the reality. I have seen with my own eyes, I heard with my own ears, things that don't allow me to take him as the imam of a jarh wa ta'deel. And that's not from the usul of the religion that we love each other on and we hate each other on. Abu Usama al-Dhahabi, I've seen with my own eyes, with my own ears, things that say, no way. I don't care if Al-Imam Al-Albani said that, I don't agree with that. because I have my own eyes and my own ears and my own experience. And also, I have history on my hand. Since Al-Albani, rahmatullah alayhi, made that statement, there are a lot of things that have transpired that the Imam of al-Jarh wa Ta'dil wouldn't say this, wouldn't judge people in this type of a way. And then we had, number 3, Sheikh Rabi himself saying, I'm not comfortable with that. I am not the Imam of al-Jarh wa Ta'dil.
He said that?
Yes, he said that. That is, from the Watha'iq, that's from his words. He said, I don't accept that. He said, I am not the Imam. And then fourthly, we have scholars saying that al-Jarh wa Ta'dil doesn't even exist right now. Sheikh Abdul Aziz al-Rajihi and other than them, they were saying this is, what we have right now is ghiba and namima. So from what I saw with my own eyes and my own ears is that incident with Abdurrahman Hernando. When the Sheikh was saying one thing 1 minute, believing in that, and then when I told him it's not like that. Hernando, he is a kadhab. Hernando is not practicing the religion. Hernando is known for mubalagha and being, a person who adds on to narrations and takes narrations away from the reality. And right away, you calm down. Another issue is when the Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi thing was very, very hot, and I had love and respect for Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi, and I still have love and respect for him.
So just before you go on to that, for the viewers, you could say that Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi was with Sheikh Muhammad Khali at one point.
No doubt about it. He respected him. And I think Dr. Abdul Haq Baker, he alluded to that yesterday because it was Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi who sat with the brothers and then called Sheikh Rabi, in fact, Sheikh Rabi, and said, this is what has been agreed to. And Sheikh Rabi wrote off and he signed off on that.
That's right.
To come back and to break that contract.
That's right.
That's from what I experienced. Imam of al-Jarh wa Ta'dil, he's a human being like everyone else. But as I was mentioning, with this Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi issue, Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi, when I went to Sheikh Rabi's house with some brothers from America, and there were some brothers from his students who were there. And one of those brothers is my brother, Uncle Ibrahim Smith, who's been a teacher there in Saudi Arabia for over, 25, 30 years. When I was studying there, he was a teacher and he's still there. He was one of the brothers that was with me in the Majlis. And we had left Medina and we went to make Umrah and we met up with Sheikh Rabi in his house. He let everybody go, but he kept us there and he gave us lunch. Sheikh Rabi told me, Wallahi billahi tallahi, he told me, you are a pillar of a Salafiyya in the West. You must go back and warn against Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi. Sheikh Rabi calling me a pillar of a Salafiyya in the West? He can't be the Imam of the Jarh wa Ta'dil making me the pillar, because I'm not a pillar of Salafiyya in the West. So giving me that statement, if he really believed that, it's not true. I know that about myself. And can't nobody blow smoke in my ear or in my head to make me feel bigger than what I am. He said that to me, and I don't accept it because it ain't true. It's not true. The other thing I mentioned was, I give da'wah in the West, Sheikh, and as it relates to Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi, this man has nothing to do with my da'wah. My mother and my father are kuffar, from the kuffar, my family members. My community, African American brothers and sisters in my community, they're kuffar. Those who are Muslims, they need to know about the Sunnah. Our children are growing, and we have this issue of our children leaving Islam and not practicing Islam. We have the governments where we come from making policies, trying to change normative Islam, pushing homosexuality down the throats of the people. We have some serious tahaddiyat, some serious issues, Sheikh. I am not going back to give da'wah to Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi. He said, no, you must do it because you are a rukn from the da'wah of Salafi in the West. You must do it. And we went back and forth. I'm not doing that. That's not my da'wah. Trying to impress upon him. This is craziness. I'm not doing something like that. But I saw that he was musamman. He was insistent, persistent. I said, okay, I have an ishkal. I have a bit of a problem. And that is, we just came from Al-Medina. And in Al-Medina, I met up with your sheikh and my sheikh. We are mushtarikan in that sheikh. So we have some sheikhs who have different levels of students. And that sheikh that I was referring to was a Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abad, Hafidhullah. We were with him. And I asked him, with the American brothers, what do you have to say about this war that's going on with Sheikh Rabi and Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi? He said, you people should leave that and turn to beneficial knowledge. You should leave it and don't worry about these things. It only leads to the hearts getting bad and so forth and so on. I said, so your sheikh and our sheikh. Sheikh Abdul Muhsin was from our shuyukh. This was his advice, that we should leave it. I should not talk about Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi, but you're telling me I should. Sheikh Rabi told me, wallahi, a Sheikh Abdul Muhsin doesn't read about these issues, and you read. He doesn't know about Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi.
You, as in you.
And I, Abu Usama, you read and you know. Those are my personal experiences that let me say that Sheikh Rabi is not the Imam of Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil. Because if a Sheikh Abdul Muhsin doesn't read and Abu Usama reads, then woe unto Qira'ah. You know, reading.
It's true, yeah.
We have to pray janazah on reading. If a Sheikh Abu Abdul Razak, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abad, Badr, he doesn't read, and Abu Usama is reading, then way hot to Al-Qira'ah. Al-Qira'ah is done. And those are the experiences that I had, my own experiences.
So is it fair to say that there were feuds and conflicts between these mashayikh, like Sheikh Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi and like Sheikh Abu al-Khali, which the students got involved in? And as a result of this, we find conflict within the followers of those students. Is it as simple as that?
No doubt, it's as simple as that. And what happened was, unfortunately, I believe a lot of people found that their star could shine and burn bright by taking on board and making it their responsibility to push the narrative of Sheikh Rabi. Those people who support Sheikh Rabi raised them up. So there are a lot of brothers who didn't study, and I don't have anything against people who didn't study in a university, because you can be a person who has not studied, like the young brother Abdurrahman Hassan. Abdurrahman Hassan. Abdurrahman Hassan hasn't really studied in the university as such, but he has more knowledge than most of the people out there talking, in my opinion. So I'm not against people who didn't study. It doesn't mean that inherently you don't know what you're talking about. But when we see people who have not been trained and they have not studied at all, we see some of the mistakes and statements of nonsense that they're making, and some of what they had to do with the confusion of the folder that's going on, that's madmoon, that's blameworthy. That is blameworthy. So what happened was, the University of Jamiat al-Islamiyya in Medina is a prestigious university, just like an Azhar in Egypt. So if someone were able to graduate from there, it's going to give him a level of respect and credibility. And if a person didn't graduate, he may not get that same level of respect. So I found that there were a group of brothers who they didn't accomplish graduating from any university.
Like Bilal Davis and Abu Khadija.
Yeah, whoever, yes, those people. And what happened was, they took on board the battles of Sheikh Rabi', and then they raised the flag of al-wala wal-bara'. Whatever position Sheikh Rabi' holds, you have to hold it. And what he didn't hold, you can't hold it. And whatever you take that's opposite of that, we're going to wage war against you. And that's what happened. And Sheikh Rabi' raised up many of these people, which brings me to another very important point about Salafiyah. When I say that Salafiyah is a synonym for al-Islam, it's a minhaj of how to practice Islam. And it is al-Islam al-Musaffa. In a Salafiyah, like al-Islam, you can't leave anything out from Islam that you are supposed to practice. So you can't cherry pick this or that and leave it out. I don't want to wear hijab. I don't want to pray. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. If it's wajib, you have to do it. If it's haram, you have to leave it alone. The point is, it is not befitting for a believing man or a believing woman if Allah and His Messenger decide a thing to have any say-so in that affair. All right? So we can't leave anything about al-Islam out. But let's say that a group of people are on Salafiyya where everything that their sheikh or everything that they think is correct, you can't leave that. That's what they believe. They believe that they embody al-Islam with the Sunnah. Now, you have every right to say, I don't follow what Sheikh Rabi says in that, and I don't agree with what you're saying in that, and I am not leaving anything off from al-Islam. But when a person has a monopoly, his understanding, Salafiyya is this, and the Sheikh embodies Salafiyya, and we embody Salafiyya, I say, no, that is Hizbiyya, that is an occult. I have every right to reject what you said and what he said, and I don't agree with your point of view, your point of view. So a Salafiyya, again, it is not what Fulan said or Alan said or this group or that group. It is what the Prophet ﷺ brought and what those companions, may Allah be pleased with them, what they understood and what they practiced. And that's why there's a sheikh from Saudi Arabia, and I don't believe all sheikhs are from Saudi Arabia. His name is Badr al-Utaybi. Badr al-Utaybi, the brother from Nelson, Abu Abbas, Naveed. Those brothers brought him here, and I remember Naveed and those brothers were translating for him. He has a beautiful clip that's been translated on the internet where he was saying what Salafiyya is and what it isn't. And he was saying a Salafiyya is birrul walidain. A Salafiyya is being kind to your guest. A Salafiyya is being clean. A Salafi is being merciful. A Salafi is all of that. A Salafi is refuting people who should be refuted in the way that they should be refuted. But Salafi is not all about refutation. That's right. A Salafi is not me following your sheikh. That's not Salafiyya.
Can I ask a question on this? I was going to ask a question of, for instance, one of the things that's happening now in the West is if there's a da'iyah or a public figure or a sheikh or a scholar that is seen sitting with someone who is not seen as a Salafi, say for example is a Shi'i or he is a Sufi or something of that nature, then they say that person is now become a mubtada, an innovator. Where that happens on the one hand, there's also a contradiction in the fact that we sometimes see Sheikh Rabi al-Madkhali himself, some of the major scholars of Saudi Arabia sitting with scholars who are also Sufi or Shia or whatever. So is there a big double standard in the way they apply their principles here?
Yeah, there's a major double standard. I actually gave some words of advice to these brothers. And one of the words of advice about 6 years ago in Ramadan was called the double standards of SP. They had double standards. And I mentioned in there how Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and his student Ibn al-Qayyim and other than them, they had showed how it is permissible to cooperate with innovators and non-Muslims and evil people and evildoers when you're doing something under the umbrella of al-Islam, and it only can be accomplished by doing it in that way, and the harms don't outweigh the benefits and so forth and so on. And how Sheikh Rabi' went to Sudan and he sat with the Sufi, the tariqah of a Sufiya. He sat with them and he gave them dawah. And there's nothing wrong with that. How a Sheikh Rabi' in Saudi Arabia sat at a meeting where their leader called some of the ulama, some of the shuyukh, some of the doctors, some of the Islamic thinkers. He told them, well, everybody to come together and we want to address this issue about the identity and preserving the identity of our country, our nationalism. Sheikh Rabi went to that. He had to obey the ruler, but in that meeting were people who cursed the companions. In that meeting were people from the Ash'ari. In that meeting were people from Sufis because they represented all walks of life of Saudi Arabia. So he went, and I believe his participation in that was under the umbrella of al-Islam. It's not to be blamed. Yeah. So when Sheikh Rabi does it, it's okay. When they do it, it's okay. But Muhammad Hijab, some brothers were telling me about you, Muhammad Hijab, and you know this is only my 3rd time meeting you. Don't sit with Muhammad Hijab. Don't sit with Muhammad Hijab. Why shouldn't I sit with the brother? Because of this or that. Well, number one, I didn't see that. And number two, I'm going to talk to him about that. And after I talk to you about those things, I'm sitting with you. I'm sitting with you. Because what I'm trying to do overall, I believe I have a goal and objective of what I'm trying to do in terms of making it clear to people, hey, this extremism in Sheikh Rabi is a problem. It is a problem. Because it is giving people a misunderstanding about what Salafiyya really is. And there's another issue that's really critical, and that is, we are acting like what we call in America the Keystone Cops. Back in the day, Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges, way back in the day when they had silent movies, there were a group of cops who used to run around looking for the criminal, and they would just move very, very quickly, bumping into each other, bumping into the walls like clowns. This is how we're behaving. You and I are going to hate each other and be enemies to each other because Sheikh Rabi doesn't like this person and that person, and based on that, you and I are fighting each other over those people. You're going to scream, it's the Sunnah, it's the Sunnah. I'm telling you, it's not the Sunnah, by the Lord of the Kaaba. And that's why when we find those people who are with those brothers, I think they have about 30 people from their sheikhs and students who have been thrown off of the minhaj by those brothers. What kind of dawah is that? What kind of dawah is that? One of the things that made me also say Sheikh Rabi is not, I don't accept him being the Imam of al-Jarh wa Ta'deel, is the problem with Mohammed ibn Hadi al-Madkhali. Mohammed ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, he was singing the same tune as Sheikh Rabi. Whoever Sheikh Rabi likes, he likes. He doesn't like, he doesn't like. And I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, Sheikh Rabi said, Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Madkhali is from the Kibar al-Ulama. I heard that with my own ears. And I saw with my eyes. I was shocked.
And the SP was saying the same thing.
Where did they get that from? They got that Sheikh Rabi. That was his ruling. He said, some people were criticizing him. He said he's from the major scholars. That was another thing when I heard. I know Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Madkhali. He has knowledge. And I remember he was in my faculty, Kulliyat al-Dawah. And we used to love him because when he would come for his class, which always began after the morning break, what they call the Fusha, he would come in the third period every day. He would wear his bisht, he would have his fold that was halfway to a sab, and he would walk in there with izzah. And in my kulliyah, there were a lot of people who are suroris and ikhwan and stuff like that. May Allah Azza wa Jal guide all of the Muslims to the sunnah and bring us together on the haqq. And the sheikh used to walk through, and I used to look at him, I used to say, MashaAllah. He kind of didn't, he gave this air of, I don't care what you think. And I liked that. It wasn't arrogant. I thought and I felt it was the strength of the sunnah. And one thing that I learned about him is, he's not a yes man. You're not going to push him around. So now that he broke away from Sheikh Rabi because he doesn't agree with some people Sheikh Rabi likes, he doesn't like them, so he gets thrown off of a Salafiyya. But anyway, a shahid. When Sheikh Rabi said that he was a major scholar, I said, man, come on, man. I don't accept that. I studied in Saudi Arabia. I know the difference between a major scholar and a student of knowledge. We have students of knowledge who are aqwiya. He's a student of knowledge who is strong, a major student of knowledge. He's a minor student of knowledge. But from the kibar ulama, now, once they had a problem, now he's ignorant. From the kibar, now he's ignorant. He's lazy. He doesn't have books. These are some of the reasons that I say with my own eyes and my own ears, I don't accept Sheikh Rabi as being the Imam of al-Jarh wa Ta'deel during our times, nor do I see him as a person who, as those brothers say with their ghulu, we test people by Sheikh Rabi. And then taking the statements of the Salaf out of context. We don't test people with Sheikh Rabi. What are you talking about? But again, they get this stuff from people who are higher than them. Right? Because Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, he has said, anyone who goes to Mecca and you don't go see Sheikh Rabi', something's wrong with your Salafiyya. That's extreme. That is extreme. And this is what we're telling brothers, come on, you have to get off of that stuff. Relax and balance yourself. You don't know, Brother Mohammed, Hijab, how many times I have made a public attempt to invite those brothers, come. Let's come to the table to discuss the situation. Can you imagine? I know that you do dawah to people who are atheists and so forth and so on. An atheist comes to you and says, listen, Mohammed Hijab, listen, with all sincerity, I'm not here to argue with you, man. I really want you to explain to me, how does Allah exist? I'm going to listen. Would you ever say to him, no, I don't have time for you. I don't have time for you because I have to eat lunch. I don't have time for you because you're not sincere. I don't have time for you because you're this or you're that. Would that be your response? So we've said to those brothers so many times, come. I want to hear why I'm a muqtadi. I want to hear that. With your dalil, I want to hear it. And if what you're saying is true, I'm going to make tawbah. I'm going to stop. I'm going to do the right thing. Yeah. You know what their response is? Yeah. We don't sit with the people of bid'ah. We don't sit with people of bid'ah.
Sheikh Rabi'a does.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. It's a lack of sincerity, bro.
But can I ask a question on this? Because do you think that they are more ahl, that they, for example, those people in SP, the main figures, someone like Abu Khadija or someone like Bilal Davis or Abu Ayad, Amjad Rafiq, they do make tabdi'ah. They have made tabdi'ah of myself, for example. Recently, Amjad Rafiq has made tabdi'ah of me.
On his own.
Yeah, on his own, without any scholars. So the question is, what gives them the confidence to be able to do that by themselves?
I think it's a classic case of what's been mentioned in the Quran. Like the statement where Allah Ta'ala mentioned, زَيِّنَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَهُمْ سُوءَ عَمَالِهِمْ. Shaitan made their actions seem alluring to them and okay. And then we have that other issue of al-ghurur, where a person is impressed with himself. I'm Salafi, we are the Salafis. We're the cream of the crop and everybody else is off of it. We are the Firqat al-Najiyah. And they exist like that. And you don't see this level of, hey man, slow down, pump your brakes and slow down.
So, just to summarize now, I mean, what kind of advice would you give people that are involved in this, that are in this kind of, I mean, we've heard some really tragic stories, for example, when we talk about Dr. Baker, about literally families being divided, being broken up, husband being divorced from a wife, fasakh nikah happening, because the person's been declared as mubtada'. We've heard real stories about, communities being broken up, not just families, but the whole community being broken up. People seeing Islam as an intolerant religion because of this groupism, this sectarianism. What advice would you give people that are involved in this, that might be benefiting from this, on how to get out of this?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important that we understand that the Salafi community, we do not have a monopoly on drama and misbehavior and things that causes the eyes to weep and the hearts to become sad. All sects, all groups have their issues and their challenges. But my issue that we're dealing with right now is just this thing where people are talking as if they're the cream of the crop and Allah's gift to the universe, and all of this trouble that's being caused by these brothers who are speaking to this narrative. So to answer that question, there are three types of people that I've found over the years who have been able to navigate through this thing properly. Three types of people. So a person has to be from two of them at least. The first person is the one who has been oppressed. So the one who tasted the oppression, they look and say, man, this is not right. Whether it's a man or a woman, people have been oppressed by them. Like in Reading, what happened with the people in Reading, the way some of their brothers were dealt with and the way they treated people without giving them the benefit of the doubt. But the sad thing is that the brothers of Reading, many times, they won't see that that's what they did to other people. The brothers who were oppressed by them in Reading, the way they were dealt with, and they don't like it, the Reading brothers are doing that with other people. So if you ask the Reading brother, why is this brother muqtadi? They don't know. They're just going to parrot off the same garbage that they've been hearing. So people who have been oppressed, they know that it's not right. The second two things, and this is my advice, be from these two people, is the person who is not a yes man. If you're not a yes man, like in Jahiliyyah, your personality is, you're not the type of person people are going to come and push you off the square, and just because everyone says that, you're going to get with the program. You make up your own mind, you're your own man. Because they put so much pressure on people, like I told you, Musa Richardson. He gave my personal email to them, which caused my problem with them. And he was my friend. And he subsequently became one of them. And when I talked about his people's skills, that was back then. It's a different issue now. So you can't be a yes man. I've always told my students, like Mufti Mink, when they were saying Mufti Mink is this, Mufti Mink is that, I said, listen, don't let anybody push you and bully you into a position for his people. Say what you believe, and then let the chips fall where they went. Man, the last person is the one who has knowledge. People who have basic knowledge will know what they're doing is not right. How in the world can you force everybody to take your position or Sheikh Rabi's position? And if you don't take their position, then you're not on the sunnah. You're to be boycotted. You're to be isolated and ostracized and marginalized. Where does that come from? A person who has knowledge of this religion. He'll take those statements that they use from the Salaf out of context and say, you guys are using this out of context. We used to test the people with Ahmed and Ali Medini and so to do that. We don't sit with the people of innovation because the Salaf didn't sit with people of innovation. Are you serious? Are you really serious? We can sit with people of innovation, but there are dawabit, there are rules and regulations. So my advice, get knowledge and be a man. Be a man, a person who would dare to have your own position and to let your position be known. And if you want to stay under the radar so that the drama passes you by, I don't blame you. This is the time of fitting. So if a person doesn't want to get involved in the drama, I respect that. Don't get involved. But be quiet and don't oppress people just because they're oppressing them. Like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, he said, "La takunu imma'a." Don't be a copycat. If the people do right, you do right. If the people do wrong, you do wrong. He said, "Tafattinu," but you gotta use your brain. If the people do right with them. If the people do wrong, you don't do wrong with them. That's my advice.
Jazakumullahu khairan, Sheikh Abu Usama Atthahabi. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
My pleasure, Akhi Mohammed Hijab. Ahsanallahu alaykum, barakallahu feek, Habib.
And that is another interview we've done with one of the forerunners of the Salafi Dawah here in the United Kingdom. Inshallah, you've benefited from this. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.